Okay, you can say something to me, like hello, hello. Can you say hello, hello?
Hello, hello.
Let's just see here what we got. Okay, go ahead and say it again.
Hello, hello.
Okay, wonderful. I think we're going to get that just fine.
To hold my hand.
It's perfectly, that's wonderful, as a matter of fact.
Sit down.
Not only is it perfectly okay, it's wonderful.
No, I'm not sitting there.
We're not. Just sit next to Aunt Betty.
You know what, Claudia, if you will, after your aunt and cousin get up, then maybe.
I charge you
sit
for
down
sitting
a
in
bit,
that chair.
a little bit.
Oh,
Up to
no.
you, up to you. Oh, look at her go.
I'm just gonna get out of the
Get
way.
your foot in.
Okay.
Watch this fish.
I know.
Chuck, maybe we could have you come around a little bit and put that couch, I mean that ottoman by your mom's knee maybe, out in front maybe. Let's just try that and see how it fits. How's that looking? I think that's great, yeah. That'll work out real good. Let me just get this up a little bit. That's your shot.
You want me to take a picture? Everybody look this way. Let me go back and look. Okay. I'm gonna sit in the chair.
So you can sit and watch.
The director's chair.
There you go.
Go for a ride. I found out it has different speeds. I never knew that.
Oh, really?
Just getting a couple of little shots here. Okay, good. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get started. Whoa! Have to stabilize this thing just a little bit. Okay. What I'm going to do to get started is that we're going to ask everybody their full name. Okay? So if you can just, and we'll start with Tom and then we'll move down. And Claudia, if you can help in any way you think something needs to be
Is
said.
he the only one that has a microphone?
Yes, but it'll be picked up by everybody.
Okay.
Okay?
Because I don't know if Emily should have it. She's a little softer.
Well, let's try it. I'm listening for
You're the
that.
professional.
Okay, so no, that's a good suggestion. Okay, now,
Director.
let's just start here with Tom. If you can give me your full name.
Tom Carleuich.
All right, we'll move on.
Betty?
Betty.
Go ahead.
Betty,
What is your full name, Betty?
Bettie Carleuich. Emily Novak.
Chuck Novak.
And Emily, how are you related to Betty?
We are sisters. She
So-
is 2 years younger than I.
2 years younger?
What is it?
2 years younger.
2 years younger.
Okay. Now, we might get started a little bit slow, but we'll get into the conversation, and once we do, it'll get moving, okay? Now, I'm going to kind of go in on the two of you. Okay, that's Betty and Emily, right? Why do I keep Emily, right? I've got this mindset, see? Okay. Emily, can you tell us a little bit about how Betty and you spent your childhood, where you spent your childhood?
Well, in the house in which we were born on Strawberry Hill in Kansas City, Kansas. She had her friends and I had mine.
And what did you like to do? Did you play video games? No, what did you like to do
No, we
as
didn't have
games?
video games. No, we didn't. We used to play tag.
Mud pies. Mud pies.
Mud pies. I
Cool.
forgot that.
Yeah. Did you make mud pies?
Do you remember making them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
What are the ingredients in a mud pie?
Just mud and water.
And what did you do with them once you made them?
We tried to sell them.
Who did you sell them to?
Well, nobody would buy them.
Nobody would buy
So you
them.
had no customers?
No customers.
No customer.
No
No.
customers. Did you do anything else? Do you think of anything else? Did you play hopscotch or jump
Oh,
rope?
sure we did. Yes, we did.
Mhm, mhm. And what was the weather like in Kansas? What can you describe for us what your weather was like? Was it very warm in the summer? Was it cold?
Very warm in the summer, and then in the fall it would turn to be chilly. And then in the winter, we've had some tough winters.
Really?
Yes, a lot of snow. Hmm.
Now, from when I think of Kansas, I think of stormy weather. Did you ever experience a bad storm when you lived there?
I can't recall that we did.
Mm-mm.
So you were fortunate never to experience a bad storm.
Right.
Anything else you'd like to tell us? How about your parents? What were their names and what did they do?
My mother's name was Louise and my dad's name was Matt. My mother worked in a bag factory where she worked on sewing up bags, and she would have a lady clipping for her, and they used to say that it was really tough to work with Louise because my mother's name was Louise, but she was so fast on the sewing machine that it was tough to keep up with her to keep clipping. And then she would bring those samples home and make pajamas for the boys and my dad and for us, skirts and blouses. She would
Prom dresses.
make what? Prom
And she
dresses.
made a prom dress for me
Did she?
one year.
She
Did you
your
hear that?
prom
She made a
dress.
prom dress.
She made your prom
I didn't know
dress.
that, Betty.
Was that like your senior high school prom?
Yes, it was. And my date was George Brunsky.
Was he good looking?
I would say so. He was the pick of the crop.
That's great. Do you remember what color your prom dress was?
It was a blue floral print.
And you must have looked beautiful.
I tried my best.
Aw. And was the prom held at your high school, or was it held at a hall, or
It was held at the high school.
high school? Did you have like anything after the prom, like they do today, where you go somewhere and be out all night? Or
No, we didn't believe in those episodes.
it was come right home after the prom, right?
Or to go to a
Right.
drive-in. You know, there'd be drive-ins on State Avenue.
So you went to the drive-in with George.
Yes. But not to carouse around like they might do today. No.
They forget nowadays, they're up all night. You can ask Claudia that, 'cause she has,
Up all night, huh? Not any, you didn't do that. You didn't stay up all night.
no, we didn't have the time.
No.
Now, your mom's name was Louise. What was your dad's name?
Matt
Matt.
Matt Turk, and our mother's name was Louise.
And before we go on to your dad, I just want to ask you a question. You said that your mom was a sewer in a bag factory, and she sewed your prom dress. Is that something she liked to do as a hobby as well? Did she sew or crochet or?
She crocheted, she could look. I remember one time we were coming home from the avenue and we stopped by a hem stitching shop. And she says, Emily, wait a minute. And I waited, and she was studying something that was on display. And we went right home and she made a copy of what she just saw. She was very talented,
I guess so.
very talented.
My goodness. So did either one of you pick up on her talents? Did you like to sew?
Not to the degree that she did,
Mhm.
and nobody got to touch her sewing machine. It was a treadle type, you know. No, you just, that was sacred ground.
That's wonderful.
Because she made the draperies and everything. Can you imagine? There was all in color, all in a design.
What a talent.
Yes.
What a talent. Now, let's move on to your dad. His name was Matt. Matthew?
Matt,
Okay. And what did Matthew do?
he worked in the butterine department. That was in the oleomargarine department at Wilson Packing Company.
And Wilson Packing Company was like a bakery? Is that what that was? Or
No,
did they
no,
just
no.
pack?
It was a packing company.
Okay, because you said buttering and I was a little confused. When I think buttering, I think of bakery, you know.
Oh, no. They, that was butterine, that was what we call butter today. And the oleomargarine was where you'd have a little circle and you'd burst that and mix it up and it would give it a yellow color. Remember that, Betty? My papa would bring home the,
You have to tell them the packing houses where they slaughtered and processed the cattle and hogs.
oh, yes, he's saying that they would slaughter and process cattle at Wilson and Armour and Cudahy. It was a well-known mecca for companies like that in Kansas City, Kansas.
Now, is that the only job that you remember your dad having? Did he ever have another job?
He did originally when he came from the old country with his brother. My mom settled in Kansas with her mother, and my dad and his brother went down south, and they went to Jackson, Mississippi, because they were foresters in the village where they were born in Croatia. And my dad told me after my mom died, when we moved back down to the house, that he used to come home to bring her money, you know, but then she took sick and couldn't live alone. So he gave up the forestry and came to Kansas City, Kansas, and that's when he ended up going to the packing company. But his brother John stayed in Mobile, Alabama, and he actually had an office on the Mississippi River. He was a stave buyer.
What is that?
Stave is part of the gallon or the
Barrel.
barrels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how your grandparents met? I'm sorry, how your parents met?
Do you know how Mama and Papa met?
No, that was all a secret. They never told us anything personal like that.
But they did like to dance. And I can remember them at Fifth Street Hall going around the dance floor. It was a sight to behold. They were just unusual. They were very good dancers, the two of them. They won contests.
Wow. Would you say that that was how they spent most of their leisure time, was dancing?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Mhm, mhm. What would you do like on a Saturday night in Kansas City? As a teenage girls, what would you do? How would you spend your day, your Saturday night? Would you go to the movies? Would you go to dances?
Well, we would go to the show on Minnesota Avenue and buy day-old popcorn for a nickel a box and go into the movie show and watch.
And how much, do you remember how much the movie show cost?
I don't remember if it was a nickel or a dime, but We did get the Dale popcorn, because we used to get a box for a nickel, and that would ordinarily sell for a dime or more, you know.
Now, how many siblings did you have? How many children did your parents have?
6.
6 children. Can you
Yeah.
name them?
My sister Helen, she was the eldest, and then Emily, and then Betty or Beatrice, and then my brother Raymond, and my brother Ed, and my sister Fran. So they were the 6. 4 girls and 2 boys.
Wonderful. And Emily, last but not least, I understand that you took a trip to Croatia recently
Yes, we did.
to see someone.
Charles was there 2 years ago, and he wanted to take me there. So we were there 2 years. No, he was there 3 years ago, and then wasn't it
I was there 2 years ago. We went last year.
last year?
At this time.
And we went to the village where my dad was born,
And what village was that? What is the name of the village? Do you remember?
Gerovo.
Gerovo.
Gerovo. It's a village where everybody knows everybody. We would walk down the street and everybody would say Dobar Dan, which means good day. People were very, very friendly. And they didn't have any employment there. They except maybe forestry, right, Chuck?
Right.
Where they would fell the trees, you know. But that's what they were known for.
And then your dad was involved in forestry, right?
Yes, he was.
Originally.
He and his brothers. His brothers had stayed there in Croatia, and the brother that came back with him to America. That's how they ended up in Jackson, Mississippi, because of the trees.
So, do you have any remembrance of the trip?
Oh yeah, yeah. She had been there back in like the mid-70s with like one of our church group, and they had met with our relatives for maybe half a day. It was just a real big, quick in and out thing. And then somebody we know has relatives in the same village, and so he makes regular trips back there. And so then I was thinking, well, I'm going to try to go back there, and so I sort of figured out a few things and got there, and I speak very little of the language, but she speaks it fluently because she learned from her parents and grandparents, and it's, they're back in the hills away from the major city, so they speak the same dialect. So some words she knows are the same words that they know, that other people in other villages, they really don't use those type of words. So, and she spoke it, probably 90% of the time when we were there. And they had asked her when she left Croatia, and she had explained to them that she wasn't born there, she was an American who came back. So, and we stayed with our cousins, my grandfather's brothers and sisters, down the line. We stayed with them at their house, and then we met some others.
Excuse me, how many brothers and sisters are there still there? His brothers and sisters?
Everyone's dead because he was the youngest. And he was born in like 1886 or 1885. So they all passed away some years ago. And some of their children had passed away, but then their descendants were still there.
So you got to meet some of your kinfolk, right? And
yeah.
really understand what was life like before they came to America. Are you glad they came to America?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's somewhat it's rustic, kind of a little bit primitive to what we. There's some people that still have outhouses, but,
Is there anything you'd like to add, Chuck, before we move on? Tom, try to keep your hand away from your microphone. Okay? Okay, great. All right.
No, not too much. It's got where they grew up. It was like kind of like the Ozarks or Western Oregon, that type of landscape in Croatia. So.
Well, thank you very much. Now we're going to ask the two of you to step out so that we can actually videotape Tom and Betty, okay? We'll
You want me to move?
Yes, please. That might be helpful.
What is it, Diane?
Director.
Okay, Tom and Betty, we're going to be talking with you now. We'd like to know a little bit more about the two of you. Tom, we talked to Betty a little bit about her background along with her sister. And so let's just start with you and let's get some background on you and what were your parents' names?
My parents were Carl and Anna. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, on 40th and St. Clair, which was a main street at that time.
And your parents, were they born in the United States or?
No, they were born in Yugoslavia, in Croatia.
And how old were they when they came to the United States?
I really don't know, but they were young.
Were they married already when they came here?
No, they were married here.
They met here and married here.
Hmm.
What is it that your dad did for an occupation?
My dad was a crane operator at the Warner and Swayze Company.
And is that basically like the only job he held, a lifelong job? Or
Yes. And he retired from Warner and Swayze.
And your mom, did she hold an occupation outside of the home? Did she hold a job? Yeah.
Believe it or not, my wife worked at a bank at nights.
Your mother.
But what about your mom, Tom?
I'm talking about my mother.
Right. Okay, so your mom worked at a bank at night?
No, she was a maid. She took care of the floors and whatever.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 3 brothers and 1 sister.
And their names were in the order of birth?
Carl, Stanley, and George. And I came up at the end.
Carl, Stanley, George, and did you say you had a sister?
Anne.
Anne. Okay, very good. And what did you do on a Saturday night to enjoy East 40th and St. Clair area? What were some of the things that you enjoyed doing?
Really, as a young boy, young man, there was very little to do. We hung around the neighborhood, and when I went to high school, I spent a lot of time at the high school.
What high school was that?
East Technical.
And what year did you graduate?
What year was it, Mom? 45.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so you graduated possibly around sometime around 1945. What did you do after that, Tom?
I went to college, and when I came home, I got a job at an engineering company.
What college did you go to?
I went to Fenn College.
And College of Engineering, now part of Cleveland State University, right?
Mhm.
Mhm. And you got a job as an engineer at what was the name of the company? Remember?
I've got to think.
Not important.
That's a long time ago.
Sure it is, sure it is. How long have you been retired?
Forever.
That also is a long time.
Is he easy to live with, Betty?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He's very generous with his time and money, as you will hear from other people who have benefited from his good fortune, shall we call it.
That's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about the two of you. Where did you meet?
Well, we don't want you to be taping this as a joke, but we met at a bowling alley.
we belonged to a lodge called the Croatian Catholic Union, and the Croatian Catholic Union had tournaments every year, and they were always in a different city. And one year it was in Cleveland, and Betty came with her lady friends, and we met in Cleveland during a bowling tournament.
That is so cool. So that must have been something you enjoyed doing, was bowling, right?
At that time.
Little did you know it was going to lead you to the love of your life. For goodness sake. And how long after you met did you get married? About how long did you go together? Any ideas? Was it 6 months, a year,
Oh, more than that.
more?
Because Betty was in Kansas City and I was in Cleveland.
Oh, so you had a commuter relationship.
Yeah.
Oh my. Did you go down there to see her often? And how did you get there? Did you fly? Did you take a
Train.
train? Okay. Tell me a little bit about that. How often did you go down there?
I can't remember how many, but there were several trips.
And then did you convince her, or did he convince you, Betty, to come back with him? Did you got married in Kansas, right?
We got married, yes. And I chased him until I caught him.
That's great. Did you have a big wedding?
Well, we had a wedding in Kansas.
Were there lots of people there?
Quite a few, 100 people. People were anxious to meet my new fella, and I was more than anxious to show him off.
How wonderful. How wonderful. Now, was your mother still alive when you got married?
His mother,
And your mother, were they both still alive when you got married?
oh yes,
Did your mom make your wedding dress?
no. That was a little too fancy for her.
Where did you go? Do you remember picking out your wedding dress? Do you remember the excitement of going for your dress and doing all that?
The dress that I wore was the dress that I chose to wear. And the name of the store was
Horsfield's, wasn't it?
Harsfield's department store. It was an exclusive shop.
And that's where you got your dress.
See, you have to know a little bit about Kansas City.
Okay.
There were two cities, Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, divided by a river. And of course, all of the shopping was done in Missouri. They had a square, a downtown area, and that's where Betty loved to go.
Like to shop, Betty?
Oh yes, that was my weakness. And what I didn't know about it, he taught me real quick.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So now we're here that you got married in Kansas City, Kansas. What was the date and the year?
The date was,
Could I help you? August the 2nd,
August
1952?
So August the 2nd, 1952. Thank you.
no,
No?
that was not the correct time. But I caught him until he let me catch him.
And how many children did the two of you have together in your marriage?
We had 3 children. three, and they were all girls.
What are their names?
The oldest was Deborah. She was supposed to be named
Becky.
Okay, Deborah was one, Carla, and Claudia. Would that be the three girls?
Carla, and Claudia was the baby. And she sits in our audience today. Claudia does.
She's sitting right here with us, right?
Right.
Your girls are wonderful to you, aren't they? They really love you very much.
They do. And I love them. And if you keep on this train of thought, you'll have me crying.
That's not so bad to cry, is it? With wonderful memories. Let me go into another direction. One thing I wanted to make sure that I asked you. Did you go on a honeymoon?
Yes,
And where did you go?
we left Kansas City on
Can't remember at this point.
They had 2 receptions.
2 receptions? You had 2 receptions, one in Kansas and one in Cleveland? Is
Oh,
that what you
yes.
did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. Where was the reception in Cleveland? Where was that held?
It was held at Tom's hometown.
In Tom's hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, right?
Right.
Do you remember anything about the fact that when you went on your honeymoon, did you have just like the most wonderful time in the world?
Oh yes.
Do you remember
We
where
went-
you went?
Where we went was you're going to have to help me along here.
Okay.
Carla has some things written down.
We can just skip over that. Maybe you'll remember it as we go through, and then maybe we can come back to it. If you remember it, just say, you know what, I remember where we went on our honeymoon, okay? Let me ask you this, did either one of you serve in the armed forces at all?
No.
Okay. You were married, let's see, in 1952, which had been during possibly like the Korean War would be going on during that time in our country. What do you remember as to what was happening in the world when you got married? What was the big crisis or something that you remember that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Well, see, when you're young and in love, you don't remember all the little things.
Well, I have to tell you that the two of you seem to be very much in love, even to this moment. It's a wonderful testament to the fact that you found the right guy and he found the right girl. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would share that with us. What about Tom attracted you to him? Was it the way he looked? Was it something he said? Do you remember what made you fall in love with him?
Well, not really. It was just his mannerisms. And I knew that he would make an excellent father for my children.
And he
Right,
did.
Claudia? Claudia nods. Yes.
Tom, can you share with us something that maybe stuck out for you when you saw Betty? You said, wow, that's the girl for me. What was it? Do you remember? Was it her beauty? Was it her fun ways?
Funny ways. Funny
Betty.
ways.
We were bowlers, and Betty was a pretty fair bowler. And Betty came to Cleveland shortly after we met. The Cleveland Lodge had the bowling tournament, and Betty came to Cleveland.
And you were in a bowling tournament together, right? Now, after you got married, did you continue to be in bowling? Did you join leagues together, or was that something you did after you got married, or did you just kind of like give it up because the children came along?
Betty bowled for a while, but I gave it up.
Sure, because I was pregnant. A lot of
What's one of the memories that you can give me about something maybe I haven't asked you yet? Something that you're thinking of that was very special to you in your lives? What do you, when you think of Tom, what do you think of maybe? Or when you think of your children, what memory comes back to you?
Well, our 25th wedding anniversary.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and why that stands out in your mind?
We let the children pick the spot, and it was at Pine Ridge Golf Course.
That was the 50th.
Now, it was at Pine Ridge Golf Course, and from what Claudia tells us, that was your 50th wedding anniversary
Mm-hmm.
that you had, and that kind of stands out. Did you have a mass did you go to mass and celebrate and renew your vows?
Yes,
Did you?
we did all of that, and we had a dear friend who was a Catholic priest, and he came down to renew the vows and make it all legal.
What was the Catholic priest's name? Do you remember his name?
Father,
Okay, we can move on. But he was a dear friend of yours, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
from the seminary up the street.
And Tom, what is this memory that just kind of jumps out at you as you think about the 52 years or 52 plus years that you've spent with Betty? What jumps out at you? What is the memory that comes right to your mind? Besides how much you love her, because I can see it, that's obvious, but besides how much you love her, what else?
The children growing up and the success of the children. We were very proud of our children.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Debbie went to college, and then she where did she go for?
John Carroll.
And then she went somewhere for.
Harvard.
She went to Harvard for her master's degree.
And what did she get her master's degree in?
Engineering.
So she followed in your footsteps.
City planning.
Okay, and so that was Debbie, and can you remember something special about Debbie as she was growing up? Was she always in trouble? Was she always having fun? Did she always have her nose in her books? What do you remember about Debbie? Either one of you can tell me.
She hit the books a lot.
I think that's what it would take to go to Harvard, wouldn't it?
Right.
Anything else about Debbie that you can think of? Was she always helpful around the house?
The girls were very helpful to me, the mom.
Did anybody have interest in with what Dad did? Did you ever have anybody that was helping you like repair a car, or any of the girls that might have been more mechanically inclined? Or were they all gravitating towards mom kind of interests?
No, there was nothing that flowed through their veins at that time.
Now that was Debbie. Let's go on to the next one. Is that Carla? Okay, tell us a little bit something about Carla that you remember about her childhood. What kind of a child was she? Was she always happy? You know, tell us what kind of stands out in your mind when you think of Carla.
She was a very happy-go-lucky person from when she was small. And it rubbed off on her to this day. She is very good to us as parents.
It sounds like your girls are always there for you, aren't they?
Right.
And what did Carla do? She went on to school as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
She went on to John Carroll University. And we're eating up the time.
No worry about the time at all. What did she get her degree in at John Carroll?
She got her degree in,
Was it education?
oh yes,
Okay. And your last daughter, your baby, Claudia, what did she like to do as a child? What kind of stands out in your head? When you think of Claudia, what do you think of?
we think of John Carroll.
Claudia also went to John Carroll for her education?
No,
No. Where did Claudia go? Claudia, you can help us
Kent
out.
State.
Claudia went to Kent State for her education. So you have three very successful girls who were brought up by very loving parents, and it really does show that when you really do love each other and you do things the right way, then you have given the world three more outstanding citizens so that we can all benefit from your love, because it is a trickle-down effect to say that your daughters are out there in the world sharing that love that the two of you had for each other. Tell me a little bit about grandchildren. Do you have grandchildren?
yes, Claudia has 4 grandchildren from her present marriage and only marriage.
Do you know the names of the grandchildren?
Tim, Ryan, Katie, and Beth.
And do they come to visit you often as well?
Yes, they do. And for that, we thank them every day.
It's your blessing from God for living such a wonderful life that your grandchildren are in your life and coming to see you, right?
Right.
Now, Betty, I understand that you have a certain motto or something that you live by. Can you share that with us?
I don't
Something that
I
you say a
don't
lot.
understand.
Something that you say a lot. Now, I'm hearing that you're saying something about attitude. Do you believe that?
Attitude is everything. Pick a good one.
That
I taught my kids that from when they were small, and I still preach the same.
That's a very wonderful motto, because no matter what is happening to you, right? Would you
Right.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of any time in your life that comes to your mind that that motto is really important to you? Or has it just been something that you've just used over the span of your life? It's just there for you, right? It always comes and helps. Let me ask you another question. What do you think, and I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but what do you think, either collectively or singly, is your greatest accomplishment in life? What do you think you accomplished in these wonderful years? What's your greatest accomplishment? You think of something?
Well, of course, raising our 3 girls. But my occupation, I was an engineer. I was director of engineering at the National Acme Company.
That's quite an accomplishment in terms of your occupation. Really?
And it was good for the family. I had some money.
So it's important, isn't it?
Sure.
Finances are important, and it's a good way for your family to be raised and that type of thing. Betty, I don't know if we went over this or not, but did you work outside the home, or were you a wife and mom, or did you have another occupation? We might have gone over that already.
No, I did not really work.
In Kansas, at the Campbell Soup Company?
In Kansas, she did before she was married.
Before you were married, you worked at the Campbell Soup Company, my favorite soup company. What did you do at the Campbell Soup Company?
Oh, I was a secretary. I had a good job.
And then Tom came and stole you away from that job. He took you to Cleveland, right?
Right.
Because when you came to Cleveland, did you, well, you were already married when you came to Cleveland. Where did the two of you settle? Where was your home when you came to Cleveland? What part of Cleveland?
On 71st.
71st Street.
71st and, remember whereabouts?
It was on 71st Street.
Okay. And do you know about how long you lived there?
Too long.
Now, Tom was telling me earlier that you recently, in the past year and a half or so, have moved out of the family home. And Tom, how long again, you said, how long did you live in that home where you raised your children?
Oh, I can't recall, but it was a long time.
About 40, 44 years,
Yeah.
right? Something like that. And now you're living here, and how do you like living here?
We love it. We just think it's the cat's meow.
That is great. That is great. So that you really found a home here with the people and new friends, right?
Right.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're going to be wrapping it up, but what I want to know is there anything that I haven't asked you that you might like to talk about?
I don't think so
Okay.
at this time.
Okay, Claudia?
Emily has some stories that she probably could tell if she could sit with them again.
Sure. Emily, why don't you come back and sit, and we're going to get some more stories from you, okay? Oh, before you do, Emily, 1 second. I want to ask you this. Can you give me the best advice that you would give to your grandchildren? What advice would you give them as you look into their futures and their lives as coming up? What advice can you give them besides your wonderful motto about attitude is everything? What would you like to say to the grandchildren?
Love your parents. And after you share that love, if you have any left, love your grandparents.
Very nice. Would you like to give them any advice about their careers or about love and marriage? Who they should marry, how they should choose a mate?
They're moving along in that direction very nicely by themselves. They're doing well, and we're very proud of them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I think that's all I have, and now we can have you come back in, and we'll have you sit down and just give us some more of your stories. Anything else that you can think of, Emily, that you would
What
like
are all
to
the stories you
share?
always tell about when you were growing up with Mom, with Helen and Ray and all the things that you guys did that,
Well, there were 6 of us children in the family, and I was always in trouble. Always in trouble. My brother Ray and I,
Just didn't hit it off.
yeah. And on a Saturday, Grandma Turk had the 4 of us girls, Helen, Emily, Betty, and Fran. We would have rooms assigned to us to clean the house. And my mom would ask Helen, the eldest, how are the girls doing? And Helen said, everybody but Emily. She's sitting in the corner reading a book. And talk about deja vu, my daughter did the very same thing. The very same thing.
Like mother, like daughter, huh?
what happened with the sewing machine?
What is it?
What happened with the sewing machine?
Oh, the sewing machine. Oh, my mother had a Singer treadle machine, which she prized. And there was a banquet at the church this one Sunday, and my brother Ray and I were home, and there is a wardrobe that has the 4 drawers in Mama's room, you know, the wardrobe. And then there was a place for the coats. And Ray and I climbed up on the steps to see what was on top. And the thing came back, and it rested on my mom's sewing machine. Good thing that there was no damage done. But I was always in trouble. Betty wasn't, but I was. And Helen wasn't, but I was.
And what about your dresses?
What?
What about your dresses that Betty wore?
Oh, Betty, being 2 years younger than I was working before she was, and it was popular to wear gabardine dresses, and I would go to a ladies' dress shop, and I ended up with 4 different colors, and she would always want to borrow them, and I told her no. And I went out of town to Topeka for something or other, and when I came back, I could tell that she was into my dresses because there was a spot on it. I don't know, and now, Tom being such a generous man, she would have so many clothes. He would tell her, you don't get to buy any more unless you give one away to Emily. So she would give me boxes of clothes. I wear them to this day.
That's great.
To this day.
Sounds
You
like you're
remember that?
Sure.
Oh, and
does.
you wanted me to Grandma next door and buying her beer. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Chuck, you can tell us what you'd like.
Oh,
your
we had a
mom-
grandma, we
We
lived
can
with
edit.
the grandma. My mother's mother lived with us. But there was a lady next door that we called Grandma Next Door. And she liked to drink beer. So she would call me over and had a can and gave me 15 cents. And I went through the alley and went into the restaurant where they had the bar. And I put the can there and they filled it up. And I went out the same way that I came through the alley, and she gave me a couple of pennies. But I really wanted to use her her washing machine, her wringer washer. I wanted that one in the worst way, but no, I had to go and buy the bootleg of beer.
And how old were you?
I was in grade school.
Okay. And then you went to get something for your grandmother.
Grandma buying the beer and buying the bootleg liquor.
Who did you go to?
Well, this biography is not on me.
Okay, but it was
It's on
just the
Betty.
town.
But you
okay.
can add to it, and everything enhances. So if Chuck would like you to say something, please do.
Yeah.
Or if you don't feel like it, that's okay.
Well, I didn't think that it would be an appropriate thing with that, would it? But I used to have to go to get liquor. I don't know, I was the second eldest daughter. And they would send me around with a bottle in a brown bag and $1. And well, we used that on, my dad never drank. So we used that if we had a toothache and the Japanese dentist wasn't available. That was a form of anesthesia.
How old were you when you went to get that liquor? Was that also in grade
Well,
school?
probably in grade school.
And who did you get it
That,
from?
that was something for me, because I had a brother. He wasn't as old as I was, but I don't know if that's a sign of the times or what.
Were you frightened when you went to get that?
What is it?
It sounds like you were a little frightened when you went to get that. Were you apprehensive?
No, I wasn't. I just went ahead about my business. I
So
went
you-
to 2 different places and just gave them the empty bottle and the $1, and they left the room and came back and took the $1, and I came on home.
And did what you were supposed to do, right, for your parents.
What is it?
And you did what you were supposed to do, right?
I did what I was supposed to do.
Is there anything else? Because we're gonna run out of time, but if we do have more, I can put another tape in and we can continue.
No,
I just don't
think
wanna
that's
cut
it.
you off in any way.
No, I think that's it for me.
Wonderful. Claudia, I should get a shot of you so that we know you were at least here, okay? Just give us,
Hello.
we just gotta know you were here. You weren't just a voice in the wilderness or a voice in the background. So, yes, Claudia was definitely here.
Yes.
Okay, all right, she was helping us out tremendously. Well, Tom and Betty, I have to tell you, it's just been an absolute pleasure for me to do this. I have learned so much, and I know your daughter Carla, and I just admire her greatly, and now I can see why she's such a neat lady, coming from the parents that she had. And I need to tell you that the love you have for each other is overwhelming to me, and it's a wonderful experience. Thank you very much for sharing your lives with us.
Thank you for having,
God bless you both.
and thank you for doing this for us.
It was my pleasure, believe me. Okay.